City, John Wick Keanu Reeves prepares to exact vengeance against the High Table while hiding underground with the Bowery King Lawrence Fishburne. He travels to Morocco and kills the elder, George Georgiou, the one who sits above the table. Elder says that killing him would not change John's fate and that John would ever experience peace in death. In response, High Table member Marquis Vincent Bissett de Gramont, Bill Skarsgård, summons New York Continental Hotel manager Winston, Ian McShane, and his concierge Karen, Lance Reddick, where he explains that the High Table has given him unlimited resources to kill John and chastises Winston for previously failing to do so. As punishment, the Marquis strips Winston of his managerial duties, declares him excommunicado, destroys the New York Continental after giving 1 hour to evacuate all guests, and executes Karen. Winston knows that Karen has been killed unfairly in his place, so he can endure that pain for as long as he lives. The Marquis then enlists Kane, Donnie Yen, a blind, retired High Table assassin, to kill his old friend John, threatening to murder Kane's daughter if he refuses to do so. John takes refuge at the Osaka Continental, run by his friend Shimazu Koji, Hiroyuki Sanada. Koji's daughter Akira advises Koji not to shelter John as she knows that the High Table will inevitably come. But Koji will not abandon his friend in his hour of need. Koji informs John that killing the elder was a mistake as they have destroyed the New York Continental, and Osaka might be next. Koji wants John to think about where this ends as the table will never stop. The Marquis second-in-command Chitty, Marco Zurer, backed by High Table assassins and Kane, arrives to investigate the hotel. Koji's daughter Akira, Rina Sawayama, the hotel's concierge, evacuates the hotel just before the High Table deconsecrates it, igniting a melee. Akira says that John has no right to be at the Osaka, and that many people, including her, could die because he broke the rules. John fights through waves of armored assassins, leading to a showdown against Kane. A bounty hunter named Mr. Nobody, Shamir Anderson, interrupts their fight and allows John to escape after determining the current bounty, declared by the High Table at $20 million, for killing John to be insufficient. Mr. Nobody intends to kill John when the bounty is large enough. Until then he decides to protect John. Akira is shot by the table's mercenaries, but she is only wounded. A wounded Koji repeatedly attacks Kane on John's behalf, as Kane wanted to know John's location in the hotel, until Kane reluctantly kills Koji, but spares Akira. Akira finds John and vows revenge against Kane. She wants John to kill Kane as retribution for Koji. The Harbinger is the High Table's emissary and tells the Marquis that the bloodshed at the Osaka Continental was unnecessary. But the Marquis is adamant about destroying the idea of John. Marquis summons Mr. Nobody who demands $50 million to kill John. Marquis stabs Mr. Nobody's hand and forces him to agree to find John for $23 million. John returns to New York and meets with a vengeful Winston at Karen's grave site. John wants to kill the Marquis, but Winston says that the High Table will simply replace him. Winston suggests that John invoke an old High Table tradition to challenge the Marquis to a duel. Winning would free John of all obligations to the High Table, but he can only request a duel on behalf of a crime family. John was once part of a crime family who sat at the High Table, but he was kicked out. Winston tells John to get readmitted to his family. They would challenge the High Table and offer John as a proxy. John travels to the Berlin headquarters of the Ruska Roma crime syndicate, with whom he had severed ties, to request readmission. His adoptive sister Katia, Natalia Tina, stipulates that for readmission, John must kill Killa Harkin, Scott Adkins, a High Table member who murdered her father. Mr. Nobody tells Marquis that John is in Berlin, but now Marquis wants him to kill John for the $23 million. Mr. Nobody knows that Marquis is stringing him along. Katia delivers John to Killa. Kane and Mr. Nobody were already there as they were tracking John on the orders of the Marquis. Kane and Mr. Nobody both want to kill John, so Kill engages them in a poker game, with the winner deciding what happens next. Killa cheats at the game to produce a five-of-a-kind hand and makes it clear that he would kill Kane and Mr. Nobody as well. With the aid of Kane and Mr. Nobody, John manages to kill him and regain his status. Kane stops Mr. Nobody from killing John, as he wants to kill John. Winston relays John's challenge to the Marquis, acting as John's second, and requests that, should John win, his excommunicado to be revoked and the New York Continental be rebuilt, fully funded by the High Table. Should John lose, however, Winston would also die as the challenger's second. In Paris, John and the Marquis decide on the duel's parameters, dueling pistols at sunrise the following day at Sacré-Cœur, in a meeting moderated by the Harbinger, Clancy Brown, the table's emissary. The Marquis nominates a reluctant Kane to take his place, while the Harbinger warns that both John and Winston will be executed should either fail to appear on time. Marquis tells Kane that if he kills John, he and his daughter will be free of all obligations to the High Table. Marquis is convinced that John Wick is a man without a purpose. He has nothing to live for, to kill for, or to die for. He is a ghost looking for a grave and Marquis will help him to get there. The Bowery King arrives in Paris to give John a pistol, 9mm Pit Viper, and a new ballistic suit. The Marquis intends to prevent John from arriving at the duel in time by placing a $26 million bounty on him. Sunrise is at 6:03 a.m. John fights off hordes of assassins on his way to Sacré-Cœur, including Mr. Nobody, who negotiates a bounty increase to $40 million. Mr. Nobody engages John in hand-to-hand combat, during which John gains the upper hand, forcing Mr. Nobody to summon his ferocious dog for help. During their confrontation, John prevents Chitty from killing Mr. Nobody's dog, causing Mr. Nobody to abandon his pursuit of John. John is stopped by Marquis's agents from reaching the summit and has only 3 minutes left to make his deadline. This is when Kane arrives and says that he wants him at the duel at the appointed time. After Kane and Mr. Nobody assist John in fighting off several assassins, including Chitty, whom Mr. Nobody kills, on the Rue Feuilladier, they reach the summit just in time for the duel. Just before entering the duel, Kane stabs John in his right wrist, preventing him using his right hand during the duel. John and Kane wound each other through 2 rounds of dueling, first round of shot at 30 paces, second round of shot at 20 paces, and the third round, which is at 10 paces from the center, comes to a halt when Kane severely wounds John. Marquis frees Kane and his daughter from all obligations to the High Table. Demanding the right to administer the coup de grâce, the Marquis eagerly swaps places with Kane. Winston chides the Marquis for his arrogance, revealing that John has not yet fired his third bullet. John then promptly executes the Marquis with a headshot, ending the duel. The Harbinger grants Kane and John their freedom from the High Table and Winston's reinstatement of hotel manager of the New York Continental, which will be rebuilt with the High Table's funds. John reflects upon his life and marriage before succumbing to his injuries. Sometime later, back in New York, Winston and the Bowery King bid farewell to John at his grave, located next to that of his wife Helen.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates. Stay healthy and take care.